Hello, everybody, and welcome to Be a Better Game Master, but more importantly, welcome to the 39th episode of Roll Up and Die, our anniversary episode. My name is Barker.
And my name is Matt from A Fistful of Dice.
And my name is Alex, aka Captain Gothnog.
And last minute, like most of the stuff we decide to do, we were like, oh my goodness, it's 1 year since we started Roll Up and Die, so we should do something cool. And this is our cool thing that we decided to do. It's a live hangout, easier to post after the fact. And I don't know if I speak for everyone. I know I speak for myself when I say that 1 year came by real quickly.
Yeah, I was surprised when was it Matt that discovered it?
I think it was Barker. I think Barker pointed it out
Really?
to us. But it was
Okay.
funny because I had just been thinking about the fact that because we started the podcast not too long after Brigade Con last year when we had our
That's
the panel together. I think it was the world building panel together, and we decided that we wanted to like keep that train rolling. And so yeah, I was like, it has to be either coming up on a year or just past a year, I think. And then Barker pointed that out, and I was like, holy hell.
Well, and there's like now 38 episodes,
Yeah.
and there's over 40,000 downloads now. So
Jeez.
that's pretty awesome. I mean, it may not be awesome in the world of podcasting. For all I know, I have no idea whether that's good or not. But it sounds
Awesome.
pretty
It
impressive.
sounds awesome to me. Yeah, exactly.
It sounds impressive to me. So
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
just be impressed by it and move on.
It was just surprising. Like, it's surprising to see so many people enjoying the podcast, which was cool because it's just basically a bunch of three dudes in their underwear talking about RPGs.
I will have you know, I put on kind of pants today for that. I'm wearing basketball shorts today instead of underwear. So if I happen to stand up because I'm on camera, I wanted to have at least some coverage.
That's good. That's good.
They're underwear with pants print on them. So
Yeah.
they
The question is,
printed
are
them
you wearing
pants.
underwear underneath the basketball shorts? And you don't have to say. But
I think I'll leave that up to the imagination, Barker.
I think that's a great idea. So basically, our idea was to have a kind of 1 year birthday RPG podcast, Roll Up and Die birthday party, Roll Up and Die, and to do like a Q&A where people ask questions about role-playing games or about not role-playing games. I know
Yeah.
a lot of times you might want to ask what Matt uses on his hair, which is great, or how many lives Alex has actually taken. And I think that those are
All you
good
have to do
questions.
is count the skulls behind him, dude.
I don't know, man. I think you need a panorama webcam to see all the stuff. I would imagine. So basically, start your questions. Start your questions in the chat. The first question is very important, and this is from. Oh, I just saw who it's from. I don't want to answer a question from Marquise. This is from Stereotypical Strider. Where's the beanie at?
I was at work today, so I'm not wearing the beanie. I can't wear the beanie to work, so I just wear it on the weekends to keep this mane in check.
Yeah, Marquise. You go slumming, Marquise. You don't stay there.
The beanie will make a return. I'm sure I'll be wearing it during the Crore game.
Return of the beanie.
Return of the beanie. Crore 2, Return of the beanie.
Yeah, Cruel 2, the sequel. What will be the subject matter of Roll Up and Die? Well, there are 38 other episodes for you to check it out, and mostly, what do you guys think? Well, it's tabletop RPGs,
Yeah.
but I don't know. What do you guys like talking about the most? What do you think we talk about the most?
Oh, definitely kind of 5th edition heavy, since that's what most of us are kind of playing right now.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say that. I mean, fantasy is probably the main genre. I keep trying to think of ways to sort of push it in other genres, but it's not easy because we always seem to drift back to back to fantasy.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where like our passions kind of are. Like we all
Yeah.
are kind of drawn towards the sort of fantasy genre, but
Yeah.
the few episodes that we've done, like when we talk about like sci-fi and stuff, I've really enjoyed that, and I definitely want to do more stuff kind of a different genre. And we do a lot of like kind of agnostic stuff as well, where the stuff that we're talking about doesn't really apply to any specific genre. Like how do you do villains, or how do you do suspense, or whatever.
Right.
Maybe that'll be a good New Year's new second birthday resolution.
A second birthday resolution.
Yeah, to do more purposely out of genre stuff. And actually, what do you guys think about that in the chat? Like, because a lot of times our thought was, I like fantasy, Matt likes fantasy. A lot of the stuff we actually talk about drifts into horror. Mm-hmm. I don't know which one of us helps to make that happen.
And which one is steering the boat into the Bermuda Triangle of eldritch horror? I'm not sure which one, but it's exciting.
But it's awesome. But yeah, talk specifically more about like modern stuff.
Yeah,
or sci-fi.
Well, just on a side note, I think fantasy it should almost be horror in and of itself. I mean,
it's true. If you actually think about it, you're like, damn, dude, that's horrific.
Well, yeah, exactly. It involves murder and war and destruction and more murder,
monsters.
yeah.
Magic, insanity.
Things that if you place them into any modern setting, like a band of orcs is ransacking a town. Okay, typical D&D adventure. Now put them in some little town in Ohio where orcs just come running into town. It's a horror movie. It's not going to be unless they came in spaceships. It's not going to be classified as anything else but horror.
Yeah. So really quick, is my mic better now?
Yeah, yes. I can hear you.
Yeah. I just realized someone in the chat mentioned my mic was low, and I think it's because I had the mute button turned on my microphone.
That'll do it.
But apparently, I think that says less about me and more about my damn mute button, that you could still hear me. So I can't hit my mute button and be like, oh, dude, screw this guy that I'm talking to right now.
Yeah.
What?
We can hear you.
And you can't do the old mutant fart during live games, because we'll just hear all of them.
Oh, man.
I saw Jake from Mini Terrain Domain had a good question that I want to talk about, which is, what are your thoughts about the Cubicle 7 announcement regarding Lord of the Rings in 5th edition? And for those of you who are unaware, Cubicle 7, they're the company that does the One Ring RPG. They announced today that they're going to be using the open gaming license for 5th edition to come out with a D&D Lord of the Rings game, which is doing all sorts of things for me. I'm feeling very, very excited about that. I love the Lord of the Rings, and I love Middle-earth, and I love that I can play in a Middle-earth game using a system that I'm already really, really familiar with. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that.
Oh, cool.
I would love to play the One Ring, period. But and so I kind of want to do both now, because I've been talking about it over the past few weeks, because I have the main books for the One Ring, and I saw a Riders of Rohan book, and I'm like, oh, I love the Riders of Rohan. So I really wanted to jump into that. But now that it's in 5th edition, I'm kind of like 50-50, because part of me is like, that's awesome, because I'm totally getting that, or getting whatever they release for that, because I love Middle-earth, and I love Lord of the Rings, and I love Tolkien, and whatever.
Yeah.
But and I love 5th edition. But I'm like, oh man, does that mean I'm not gonna ever use the actual system that it was made for? So.
Well, I will say this, that I think that they're probably going to utilize a lot of all of the art and existing lore that they have already written, and just kind of repurpose it for 5th edition, which I think is really smart and really easy to do. And I was I'm looking more into the One Ring system, because I've been hearing a lot about it, and the different classes that they have and stuff. And there's no magic classes. You can't be a wizard, which is perfect, because the wizards are supposed to be sort of godlike beings in Middle Earth. So it's kind of going to be cool to see what they do with it, and how they utilize the class and the race and the background system of 5th edition with their existing sort of ideas about Middle Earth and how it all works.
Yeah. Nice. Wow, that is exciting.
Yeah.
Are they going to be doing a crowdfunding for it, or is it?
I'm not sure. They just announced it today. I don't know if it's going to be a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe, or if they're just going to put it out there. I'm not sure. Like I said, they have all this awesome art that they already have for the One Ring RPG, so they might just be like, hey, let's just write a rule set and use the art.
Yeah, that would make sense.
That's cool.
I'm a big fan of the old Iron Crown Enterprises Lord of the Rings material. know if you guys ever saw any of that.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's old school stuff. It's based on Rollmaster,
Yeah.
and I never liked the Rollmaster system, but I have most of those books, and they are awesome. I mean, they are just packed with lore and story. I mean, these things make the Silmarillion look like a graphic novel.
Yeah.
In the amount of content in it, it's just like,
It's
you know,
insane.
yeah, and the really cool thing about Iron Crown Enterprise is in just about every supplement they put out, whether it was kind of background stuff or an actual adventure, they always had these little charts in there, so you could convert it to different systems. So they had like a conversion to D20, they had conversion to 3D6 system, they had conversion to a couple others I think that were popular at the time, but that was I thought that was really neat to have that built into it, so you could really easily convert it to that and just run it in whatever system you prefer.
I love that sort of thing, and it's something that takes a lot of work, but I always appreciate it. I remember when they were doing the D&D Next playtest, they were coming out with adventures that were compatible with 3rd edition, 4th edition, and the new D&D Next rules, and that was like the coolest thing, because it was like no matter what version of D&D you were running, you could run the adventure. And I mean, it doesn't take much to convert to past or future editions of D&D, because it's all the same kind of basic mechanics, But
for the most part,
but it's cool that they had a system that was completely different, and then they had, hey, if you're using D20 or a D6 pool system or whatever, here's how you do it. So that's cool.
Well, it's kind of like with movies. I mean, if you have a really good script, you have a good story, then the special effects don't matter nearly as much. And it's the same thing with a system. If you've got a good adventure story, then it doesn't really matter which system it's made for. You should be able to run it in almost any system. Just by if you're halfway decent GM in your system, you can pick up this story, and just kind of convert it on the fly as you go. Because it's the story, it's the characters, their backgrounds, and that sort of thing. If your adventure module is just all stat blocks, then you're gonna have a much harder time. Versus if it has all kinds of rich lore and interesting stories and characters.
Exactly.
And so forth.
Exactly. And I've run games. I've run Pathfinder modules. I've run 3rd edition modules. I've run Lamentations of the Flame Princess modules, all using 5th edition, and it's because. The stats are, like you're saying, Alex, they're completely secondary to the cool ideas and the story elements and the NPCs that are presented in the module. That's really why I pick up a module, if at all.
Well, I got my eyes on this chat here.
I got my eye on you, chat.
It's time to pick a question, Captain Gothnog.
Do it up.
Excellent. Go on.
It's your turn, man. That's what we're doing here. I don't know. I didn't lay any rules.
Well, how can I can do that?
Yeah, man.
You can do anything you want, Alex. This is our podcast.
I don't mean that. I didn't know I could see the questions. I don't do that, so I don't know how to do that. Just pick a question for me. I don't care what it is.
All right, I will. Actually, Wason asked a really great question a little bit earlier. How often do you use cultures other than European in your campaigns? Are there any that you really love? I use Japanese quite a bit.
Yep, me too. And I'm the centaurs in in the campaign setting of Aeronaut, they're kind of loosely based on Mongol culture, and like Barker said, Japanese culture. There's an area of my world that hasn't been explored yet that is kind of like American Old West, which I'm really excited to get to at some point.
What is that going to be? What's it called? What's the place called?
It's called Unserort. It's like the Wormrock Badlands, and it's basically just it's not quite a desert, but it's like the American West, and there's gnomes there and stuff, and there may or may not be black powder-esque things, but not guns, because there's no guns in Aeronaut.
Right. My current campaign is still it's still technically based on a European culture, but it's based on the Greek civilization, and so it's not like your typical medieval European, I guess. So that's a little bit different. It's the setting they're in is sort of the jewel of this part of the world where it's kind of like Alexandria has a center of learning, massive libraries, and they have it's run by a senate, and so it's very very much more civilized, I guess you'd say, than some of the other feudal and monarch systems you'd find elsewhere. But so
Right.
that's a little bit different. But I have
Yeah.
been considering expanding, because right now they're on the borders of more of a tropical area. So I was considering looking into some more African cultures and kind of bringing them. I don't want to use them exactly as they might have been. I want to kind of kind of like with D&D, take that as a basis for the culture and then expand on it, and make it more interesting that way.
Right. What about you, Barker?
Hello.
Are you there, Barker?
Yeah, I think so. Are you
What happened?
I don't. You guys were frozen for a minute, and I
Okay.
think it was because I typed something in the chat, and then everything got locked up, and
Oh.
so.
It was
Okay.
funny because I said, "What about you, Barker?" And you were like staring into the webcam with just this terrified look on your face, and I was like, "Dude, it's not that difficult of a question, man."
So repeat the question.
So we were talking about non-European cultures in our fantasy settings, and I said, "What about you, Barker?"
Okay, yeah, I mentioned Japanese earlier, and one of the things that I like to do is there's a group of elves in my setting that are kind of a cross between Japanese and Native American culture, and which I thought fit really well together, actually, and it's cool to have like a tribe of elves honor bound and wielding katanas is kind of dope.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just katanas are cool, man.
They are cool. They are cool. And I know there's like a whole culture where it's like a katana is the ultimate weapon. And I don't subscribe to that, but I think they're cool looking swords, and I appreciate the artistry that goes into making them. So the Japanese-esque culture in my world is elves too.
Yeah.
They're high elves, and I just took everything that was kind of cool, and I was like, I'm gonna put this all together. So I'm like, okay, what if it was Rohan, but like samurai, but they had meteorite swords, and so it's like horse lord high elves with star steel katanas, and I'm like, yeah, that's dope.
Hell yeah.
And the Provokers actually got some armor from there last night. They got some star steel armor from Iridos, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Heck no, man.
Yeah, Dice didn't though. He was like, I'm out.
I didn't do that. I don't want to Oakin or something. So, do you have a question yet, Alex? Do you want me to pick another one?
Yeah.
I'll pick another one.
Do it.
Well,
Do
okay.
it,
How do you set up so I can see these things?
So if you go to the YouTube page, Alex, there's a chat there, and you can actually pop out the chat and have just the chat open, which is really nice.
Oh, okay.
I'm just laughing at Alex because he said, "Hey, how do you do this newfangled chat?" And all I saw above Alex's face was, "Alex has opened the Fate dice roller." And I'm like,
He's like,
"Nope,
is
not
this
that."
it? Is it the Fate dice roller?
It's like telling my mom how to use Chrome and she opens the calculator. Like, no, Mom, Jesus, just.
Here's an interesting question. Zarkduha asks, is there a class from another game or edition that you think would be interesting for 5th edition? And then he said, or race for that matter. So basically, is there a race or a class from another game that you think would be interesting in 5th edition?
I think lately I've been really wishing that there was like a scholar class.
Okay.
Like non-magic user, like a scholar type of something that would usually go well in a Cthulhu-esque game.
Mm-hmm.
But for D&D. But with D&D, it's interesting, and this is probably one of the things. I love D&D and I love 5th edition, but this is one of the things that I'm like, about it, is that the classes are basically, how do you kill people?
Right.
How do you end lives? Like a rogue, you do it. And so it'd be cool if there were like a scholar. Of course, you have the backgrounds for that and stuff, but I'd love to play a scholar that sucks at fighting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's just one of those things where if you want to play a character that's less about fighting, I mean, you do have to kind of mechanically cripple them to make them work, or just play them off as not being very good at fighting, which is, I mean, easy enough to do. But I do see where you're coming from, Barker. I would say for me, like, I enjoyed the what was it called? I think it was the Oracle in Pathfinder. I can't remember, but it was like based on being able to see omens and see things a little bit ahead in the future and things like that. And actually, Point of Inspiration is working on something very similar that I looked at the other day that is pretty cool. So I can't wait to see what they do with that.
I suppose making in 5th edition making a bardic college that could work.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Getting them away from all the thievery and assassination and all that kind of stuff.
That's the fun stuff.
Well, I'm just saying that if you wanted a pure scholar,
yeah, no, for sure,
you could definitely have them as a, college of, what would be the word? Scholar.
College of not fighting things.
College of pacifism. College of liberal arts.
Yeah, there you go. That's the degree I got, was the not fighting stuff.
Yeah, dude.
Barker, what are you eating? That's a question, not in the chat, but one that I'm going to ask.
Did someone ask that in the chat? No.
No, I'm asking.
Well, I'm not going to answer until you type it in the chat. So.
Oh my god. Okay, 1 second.
I only answer questions in the chat. Okay, all caps too. That's how.
Man.
Barker, what are you eating? I am eating Papa Murphy's pizza.
That was a letdown. What kind of pizza? I want to know.
It's white sauce with chicken and tomatoes.
Hell yeah.
And but these bastards didn't cook the pizza.
Dude, they did not cook the pizza. That happens to me every time I go to Papa Murphy's. I always have to cook it myself. It's ridiculous.
Dude.
The cheese isn't even ever melted.
No.
Oh god, it's like not even close to being cooked.
I saw.
So someone asked a question really quick. Why can't you just
for it.
role play a scholar, Barker? Why would one need a specific class to play one? Here's the answer: you don't need a specific class to play one.
No, absolutely not.
And that's what I do. I just role play a scholar. So, but the question, in question was why, or what do you wish would be in D&D? And sometimes, if we're talking about systems only, I wish it would be a little more open for non-combat classes. And I think they did that. They were going for that with the backgrounds a little bit, but it was still a little meh. So, but that's why I agree completely. You don't need a system to tell you how to play.
No, that's true. But it is nice to be able to give them a little bit more they can do in lieu of having the combat training.
Yeah. For
Give them access to more lore. Being able to figure things out, make them more Sherlock Holmesy. So maybe they're really good at observing and analyzing things, and they're not particularly good at fighting, but they can tell you what happened in a room, just by observing, the dust patterns and this candlestick was moved recently. They that kind of thing would be kind of cool. Because then they have a practical. Then they would have kind of a practical use other than just being the walking library for the group. It's like, have you heard of this man?
Right.
Yes, as a matter of fact, he was. So you're not just plot exposition.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I like that. I like that idea.
They go by so fast, though.
I know. Let's see here. How do you guys deal with players that have weird ideas about fantasy and always try to add other weird tropes into your world, like flying griffin riders and guns? Hey, man. The hell? How are griffin riders not in fantasy, bro? Here's the thing: if you don't have griffins in your world, I don't know. I guess the question is, how do you deal with players that want to add stuff into your world that isn't necessarily there? Is the what he's getting at? So it's like if a player goes, "I want to play a gunslinger," and you're like, "Bro, there's no guns."
I love creative players, and I really encourage them to add things, but it also requires a certain level of understanding and trust between them. I wouldn't just do that with a new player that I've never played with before. it's a lot easier to do it with someone that you know.
Right.
Like, I don't think I'd have to worry with either one of you guys coming into a campaign and giving you free reign to just make stuff.
Right.
Because I know you're not going to break it deliberately.
Right.
But but you can also lay down some ground rules. Like I've done that before too, where when I'm starting a new campaign, if there's new people that haven't played with me before, I'll say, okay, there's not going to be any gunpowder or guns. They chemically don't work in this world because of magic. Because magic.
Because magic, exactly. Because magic
yeah.
and speed force.
So, you can just lay down a few ground rules, but other than that, you can kind of give them free reign to kind of make stuff. And after a while, they kind of get a feel for it, and they know what's going to fly and what's not.
Exactly. Well, and as a player, if I'm ever thinking of doing something a little bit off the like center line, I always ask the GM, like, for the Copper Jackals game that Tim ran a few weeks back, I was making my character, and the art that I found for him, he had like a gun. He had like a really primitive looking scatter gun, and I was like, well, I don't know if there's guns in this campaign setting or not. They have a lot of Magitech stuff, so maybe there is guns. So I brought it to Tim and James, and they were like, you know what? We haven't really decided if there's guns yet. So I was like, I'll just make it a badass crossbow with like a pistol grip on it. That's totally fine. So like as a player, I'm always kind of cognizant of that, and I don't want to bring anything into the world that's gonna like tip the scales, because introducing something specifically, if we're talking about it, like firearms into your world, that's like a big thing. Like that's like, why doesn't everyone use guns? Like why aren't there guns over here, and how do they work, and how can I get one? And then the the entire campaign setting just is like because everyone has guns now. But
right,
the minute you create a chainsaw town in your world, everyone's going to wonder where the chainsaws
are. Exactly. Where are the chainsaw swords? That guy has one. Marquise, stereotypical Strider, asked a follow-up question. So Matt/Barker/Alex, do you guys not like guns at all in your D&D? No, I actually really dig guns in certain applications. I have a little mini setting that I tinker with from time to time called Fellscape, that's like humanity caught between a war between angels and demons, and they have guns, which is basically the only thing that puts them on an even footing with the demons and the angels, is the fact that they have black powder weapons. But it's one of those things where it's like with a careful, steady hand. Like I'm not going to put it in every campaign setting.
What do you? Go ahead, Alex.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I like to keep my fantasy without it, but I have no problem with a setting that has magic with guns. You know what I mean? It's kind of nitpicky, but the minute I add guns, then for me it crosses the genre from fantasy to steampunk. And that's cool. That's fine. I don't mind that. I'll play that, but I don't consider it necessarily fantasy. But
right.
Again,
that's not your fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a completely arbitrary, just evaluation. So
no, I get it though, and I totally agree. Like I think the minute that you add guns into something, it's not strictly fantasy anymore. It has that kind of, like you're saying, like that steampunky kind of vibe to it. So, and like you're saying, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not something that everyone wants in their setting.
Yeah.
I like guns. But everything that you guys said is totally accurate, man. Like, and keep in mind, like, what's the worst that can happen? You run a game and one of the players, wants to do this crazy thing or put guns in the game, and like, what's the worst that happens? You run a subpar one shot in your experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still playing a game and you're still having fun with your friends. Yeah. And if everybody's like, "Oh, come on, can't we have guns?" Maybe everyone wants to run a spy game, or maybe they want to play in a modern setting. So, but I'm going to scroll up a little bit and pick a different question, if that's okay. That's not RPG related. And you guys can post your responses in the chat as well, viewers. What celebrities do you think would survive the zombie apocalypse?
Well, Vin Diesel would have to. I mean, Vin Diesel.
I'm going to say Tom Cruise.
You think so?
Yeah, dude, he does all his own stuff.
That's true. He does.
You know what?
That is a good point.
Changing it up, actually. Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I just saw him tactical shooting on that gun range. Keanu Reeves would absolutely survive the zombie apocalypse.
He would win the zombie apocalypse.
He would win, exactly. He would just be like, tung, 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 tung.
We're done here, ladies and gentlemen.
I would say Keanu Reeves too. Just, I mean, based on the movie John Wick and then seeing that clip of him at the shooting range, I'm like, dude can shoot.
And I don't have anything to speak of about Tom Cruise and whether or not he might be nuts, but dude makes some pretty good movies.
Yeah, he's a awesome action movie star. But whatever he is personally,
Yeah,
whatever, not my business.
Not my business. Tom Petty is already a zombie when he counts. Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a Blue Apron question, Barker. Do you see that?
I just saw that. A Blue Apron question. You're on this Blue Kitchen thing. Blue Apron. What's your favorite dish yet? So for those of you who haven't heard me say it 3 times so far in the Roll Up and Die podcast, I am a part of Blue Apron. They send me, it's a subscription-based feature, they send me meals to my door once a week, 3 meals, and the ingredients so I can cook them. It's not like, here, microwave this filet mignon, it's cooking.
Ooh, microwave filet mignon, that's my favorite. Oh, yeah.
It's like $5 a month. They send me a lean cuisine every once in a while. It's really great.
You're like, hey...
It's just bullshit. We had some cutbacks
with a crude label stuck over it.
Yeah. Well, all right. I'll eat it for the brownie. No. My favorite dish is the pretzel burgers. Probably. They sent me pretzel burgers with the cheese sauce that go on the pretzel burger.
Yeah, those look good.
Oh my god, it's so good. 30 inches of doom.
30 inches of doom.
Oh, and people were asking earlier. There was apparently like a boxing match in the chat earlier over whether or not I was a teacher. I don't know what happened. I was a teacher. I am no longer a teacher. When I was a teacher, I taught a class called Leadership, which is basically an elective for kids who want to learn how to start a business or start a website, or it's like the middle school's version of JROTC, but less of a military focus and more of a applying for college focus.
Right.
So that was really fun.
Here's a good
Alex,
from Don Bro. The
Don
Provokers
Bro
has some emotional moments. Have you ever cried for a character while role playing? That's a good question. I did cry one time. It was with my home group, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I was running a game with my home group, and there was a character who, in his backstory, he was forced to kill someone he loved. And we were kind of wrapping up the campaign, and there was this thing during the last session where everyone kind of had to confront like their greatest fear or their greatest regret in this kind of extraplanar space. And he ended up meeting his lover, who he was forced to kill. And we role-played this scene where his loved one said, you have to leave me behind. I forgive you. And in role-playing this, the whole table was just, like, in tears. Because it was such, like, an emotional moment, and we knew that it was so important to this character. And, yeah, it was just really sad. I think that was the only time I've, like, outright kind of, like, got, like, teary-eyed and cried during an RPG, though.
Alex is like, I make the players cry. That's what I.
Well,
not my job to cry.
We all kind of cried at this one. It was like the second. I think it was like the first or second session with the new group that I hadn't played with before, and I knew it was gonna be a long campaign. But the first encounter, they were coming down out of the mountains. This druid and his dwarf friend, and they came upon this these 2 young men being waylaid by what looked like soldiers in strange garb, and the 2 young men were killed before they could get there, and then they ended up slaughtering them, and that was kind of the lead into the adventure. But they searched the bodies of the 2 young men, and they found that one of them had a letter that was supposed to be that basically placed them in a nearby village, and so they decided to take it there, and they found this young man's mother and his little sister basically out in the yard, and now they had to come up and tell them how they came by it and what happened. And yeah, that one was tough to GM, but also
Yeah, man.
to play because I mean, the players did it so well, and and then you have to play it. The little girl realizing that her brother's gone, and the mother, kind of falling to the ground, and yeah, it was a surprisingly intense scene that I hadn't really kind of planned on necessarily, but it was great. It was really
Yeah,
well done,
man.
and it was it was very powerful.
I love moments like that, and it's like it's one of those things where it really kind of shows how powerful RPGs and the interactions we have while we're playing can be, because you get so attached to these characters, and it's like you don't even realize it, and all of a sudden you're like getting teary-eyed over a character dying or having an emotional moment, and it always catches me by surprise,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see. I think the answer is yes, but I can't really remember. But there are times where I get emotional about the story of a game or a character or something, like when I'm the GM and the game isn't happening. Like when it's outside the game, when I realize something that I didn't sit down to write and create, where I realize a character's backstory and I maybe realize how sad it is, and that gets me. Like, oh crap, because it's almost like that character is like grabbing me by the scruff of my neck, saying, "Look at this," and I'm not, and it's just like, oh crap. So I just write it down. So that to me that's hit me a few times, but which is a little sappy and nerdy, but
no,
I love that feeling.
No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Yep. Alex, you want to pick a question?
Let's see. There was one a ways back. I can't know if I can find it. But basically, the question was, how do you handle when a character or the party is coming to a new part of the world that they haven't seen before, and kind of discovering a new continent or new, kind of entirely new location?
That's a good question.
Yeah. That one caught my eye, and I think I'm sorry, I don't remember who asked it because it was, as I said, the scroll keeps going. But I think one of the ways to do it is to try to make it as alien as possible. Make it as unusual, different, so that it doesn't just feel like more of the same. If you're really going to go and discover a new place, you want it strange, and that doesn't have to be bizarre, but certainly, it has to not feel like the place they just left.
Yeah, exactly. It has to, you've set up a certain precedence and set up a certain, culture in the other place, and then you kind of have to present right away how different the other place is. Once they get to the new place. So
yeah,
I always enjoy doing that, and it's always cool to take characters that are so used to one setting and putting them in something else completely different.
Yeah. And it can be really hard to create. Yeah.
Nope, you go ahead, Alex.
No, I was just gonna say it can be really hard making like a new culture. I mean, like we were talking about, picking Japanese or different African cultures or Scandinavian cultures or whatever, but making something from scratch is a lot harder than people imagine. We always base it even vaguely on something that we know, and so coming up with something truly different and alien is nearly impossible, I think, and while keeping it relatable to the players.
For sure.
Obviously, it has to be relatable to the players. Otherwise, it's just going to be, too weird, and they're going to want to leave.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the challenge, right? Because if you can create something that's so off the wall that it might be alien, but if you don't relate it to the players that are around your table, it's going to fall flat-footed, and it's just going to be a random thing. So, I don't know. I like the idea of really shocking them, though. Really, like, showing them something that they would never expect. Not just making it an extension of the world they came from, but its own microcosm of a world, especially if it's another continent.
Yeah.
So what was the most alien sort of idea or culture that you guys came up with?
Oh man.
I, well, I think for me, it's probably that the players haven't interacted with them yet, but the elves of Haldrathine in Aeronoth, they're inspired by the Protoss from StarCraft. They're a completely psionic culture where they don't actually speak using their mouths anymore. They only speak. It's really intimate to speak with someone using your actual voice. Normally, they speak psychically, and they're masters of psionics, and they have liquid metal that they can control with their minds to create their weapons and armor. So it's like the most sci-fi thing I've ever put in a fantasy game.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the most alien for sure.
I had an underground race in one of my homebrew games, one of my home games that involved. I can't remember what it was. If it was humans that were underground, or it was definitely a different species of being that had like so dark vision that they couldn't go on the surface without burning out their eyes. But they lived in this underground kind of cavern, so to speak, and the roots of the trees above had dug down and punctured holes in the ceiling. So the light in different areas would beam through the ceiling on the ground and make things grow down there. And that's how they got their food and things like that. Don't look at the light, but definitely reap what it creates for you. And they worshipped this light as if it were a deity, because it basically was the reason that they could survive underground. And I thought that was a little alien, because you have this idea of they're worshiping something that we all know is just a byproduct of something else. Like that's you're worshiping a reflection of something completely different that you've never seen before. And that was, at least for me, that was a really interesting thing to jump into.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting...
Oh, I'm sorry. I was singing, Alex.
Alex,
I don't know
be
what you're
quiet.
talking
Barker's
about.
singing.
Apologies.
Da, 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 da. All right, I'm done now. You can talk about your role-playing games.
Okay. No, actually, one of the more interesting things in one of my games was created by the player. He came up with his character, a druid, and he belonged to the Sky cult, and they were all elves. And what they would do is they would eat this kind of toxic blue paste that they would make from different elements in their surroundings, and it dyed their skin this kind of bright blue color. And they also grew these sort of antlers from their heads, like kind of moose style antlers, and they just grow from their skulls. And this blue paste had the effect of kind of making their bodies poison, so that they had really low constitution scores. They were always very sickly and frail, but they it was part of their religious practice and so forth. And it was just a really neat character, but they were forbidden from going below the ground.
Right.
Going under the ground was an abomination to them, and at one point he was kind of forced to, and then again the player took the initiative with this, and his god essentially abandoned him, and his antlers began to sort of rot and grow inward into his skull, and he had to find a way to sort of break his vow to his deity and survive somehow. So it turned into a really neat kind of campaign thread. But
That's awesome, man.
it was just a great idea for a unique druidic culture, not the typical ones with the grove of stones and
Right.
robes and all this same stuff.
No, absolutely. Cody has asked this question a couple times.
I've been purposely ignoring it.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just
So
kidding.
he asked character voices. For those of you that do them, what goes into your development of your character voices? Certain inspirations, off the top of your head, improv, a mix of the two. So basically, how do you come up with the voices of your characters if you do specific voices for your characters and your non-player characters?
Depends how much time I have.
Mm-hmm.
If the players have kind of backed me into a corner to where I have to introduce a new character, then I have to come up with something fast.
Yeah.
If I know it's going to be a more significant character coming up in an upcoming session, then I'll probably kind of practice different ones. Usually when I'm driving, just because I'm alone.
Yeah, I do that a lot when I'm driving. Yeah.
All right, what kind of guy is this? All right, he's a tough guy, so a kind of low voice, maybe gravelly. Give him some more nasal. He's been through a lot, so maybe he has a kind of a, some scars, maybe in his throat, so he talks like that. And you can just kind of consider the character, and they can come out a little bit, what's not quite cliche, but caricature almost, but
Right.
it works in a D&D game. Caricature works.
Absolutely. What about you, Barker?
So, I got in the chat again. So for me personally, sorry for the distraction. I usually a mixture of both improv or like real world inspiration. A lot of the things I do is I'll think of like who this person is and what their personality is like, and come up with a personality for them. Which is which you can kind of get in trouble for. I think we mentioned this on the podcast where like, anybody who talks like this is quite smart and well educated, but anybody who talks like this is kind of an idiot. And I just kind of like, how smart is this person? All right, boom, Cockney. Or,
Right.
But one of the things that I'm actually going to tap Tim Carney from Tabletop Terrors and Absolute Tabletop. One of the things that he mentioned to me a while back, which was really awesome, is he tries to replicate. He thinks of a celebrity like an actor, and he'll try to replicate their voice. And even if he doesn't just nail it, which it's impossible to unless you're like a perfect impressionist, you're always going to, if you have that person in mind, you're always going to sound the same. And I think that's the most important thing is, being consistent, because if the characters meet this same NPC twice, and the first time it's Cockney and the second time it's more of a, Southern English, then it's going to be confusing or just immersion breaking, which is worse than confusing.
Right.
So, I think that tactic, that strategy is really great because you're always going to be consistent. So think of a Sean Connery or who's the guy who plays in all the Tarantino movies now? German guy.
Christoph Waltz.
Oh.
Christoph Waltz. Yeah. Bingo.
Tim did a pitch perfect Christoph Waltz in Jonathan Miles' Copper Jackal's game for Brigade Con last year. His voice I was just cracking up the entire time because it was so good and so just far enough over the top, but not too far over the top. You know what I mean?
Right,
it was so fun.
Oh, it was awesome. Bingo. I can't do it, but he says bingo so perfectly.
Bingo. Yeah. The thing with it is that it's not always about doing an accent or an impression. Sometimes it's just altering the way that you talk, the speed that you talk, the way that you enunciate words. There are certain NPCs and characters that I play that have accents or that I do an impression of, an actor or character. But then there are other characters where it's literally just my voice, but I just alter the way that I speak. Which is a lot easier to do, and I always recommend that for someone who's not very good with voices or accents, is to just talk differently. Like, what speed do you normally talk at? Either talk faster or slower than that. Use words that you don't normally use, or throw in a stutter or a lisp or something. It's very very easy to alter your voice if you need to.
Raise your pitch or lower your pitch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Or even just change like certain ways you say certain vowels, like the Canadian I'm going out to my boot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Going on a boot this weekend.
Yeah, if you just do a simple change like that and just be consistent with it, it can very much characterize the voice.
Yep.
For sure. We have 10 minutes, guys. So, do you guys want to pick some more questions?
Captain, does serial killer pay well? Not as well as you'd think.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Supply and demand, dude. There's a lot of demand. There's a lot of supply for assassins.
You can't do it unless you love it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's do one more question and then maybe do an idea they can steal, and we'll have people suggest what they want us to come
Oh,
up
that's
with.
a good idea. Yeah.
Let's see here.
Oh.
Here's another Marquise question. Question for all three. What are your plans going into the future for playing games with new people, especially when the Provokers comes to an end? What will you do for the game time then? So basically, he's asking what are our plans for future games and campaigns and stuff like that.
I kind of want to get back into doing some one-shots more.
Yeah?
I enjoy doing those, and I've just been kind of busy, so I haven't had a chance to. Plus, I'm involved in 2 campaigns right now, which is one I'm running and one I'm playing in, and so that makes it a little hard to start anything new. My last campaign ran for like 2 years, so I guess we'll see how long it goes. But I think I'd like to get more into more one shots, and with just some new people, just especially with getting some new players who maybe aren't as familiar with role playing, and introduce them to it.
Yeah, awesome, cool. What about you, Barker?
For a second, I thought about not saying anything for like 20 seconds, but
just the worst.
Outside of so playing with new people, I want to do more one-shot games inside my homebrew world, and I already have one planned, and it's been planned for a long time. And the players are always like, "When are we playing? When are we playing?" Probably not till after May when I graduate from college. But I took a note from what Matt did, and he started. He has the Provokers campaign, and he runs individual one-shots in the different locations of his world to try to flesh out the world a little more and try to inspire some new ideas and stuff like that. And I just thought that was a super good idea. And so I've already run one called The Trenches of Hallowhall, which is kind of like it's in the world, and it's like trench warfare one-shot happening in a small kind of confined location in the world, and I'm going to do some more of those. So an example of one that's going to happen probably in late May or June. June's probably good. It's called the Airships of Magnetica, which is going to be a naval battle one-shot in the sky.
Dude, hell yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that one.
Who's playing in that game?
Sean Vigvari, Solar, Fox Winter, and Mitch. Mitchell, what's his last name? I forgot Mitchell's last name. But basically, that was my first online campaign, was with those guys.
Right, I was just going to say, that was your initial group.
Yeah, so I was like, and they were always kind of like, oh, are we going to play that campaign? Are we going to continue that campaign? And part of me was like, no, but let's do a one-shot and kind of wrap it up as a group. So
yeah, cool.
That's going to be a fun thing.
Right on. Oh,
what about you, Matt?
Yeah. I'm wrapping up the Provokers in their current iteration. We've got 2 sessions left of that, but I'm definitely going to be running another campaign with the same players and maybe with the same characters. We're not sure yet how that's going to go. But I want to run some more Kror stuff, which is my sword and sorcery setting, and I'm constantly fleshing that out, coming up with new stuff. I'm actually working on kind of like the early stages of a Kror supplement that is hopefully going to be coming out this year. And so I definitely want to run some more Kror stuff, and I want to run some Fellscape stuff. Fellscape is I was talking about it earlier, demons and angels, humanity caught in the middle, they got guns.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do some Fellscape stuff, and maybe some more Aeronoth one-shots. I enjoy doing those and exploring different parts of Aeronoth and just playing with new players and seeing what kind of characters they bring to a world that I feel like I know very, very well. So, yeah.
Cool.
No big campaign plans in the future, I guess, is what I should specify. I'm not planning any more campaigns, but definitely some more one-shots and stuff like that.
Someone asked earlier, and maybe this will be the second to last thing we talk about before we close out, but someone asked earlier if we were going to do some more one-shots on the podcast. And
yeah.
I think that'd be a cool thing. It takes a little more time, and we all kind of do a million other things.
Yeah.
But it'd be a fun thing to have, Matt run a one-shot, or me run a one-shot, or Alex run another one-shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That was a lot of fun. That the pipeline game was so much fun. So I'd love to do some more games with the Roll Up and Die crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I do have a sequel for the pipeline ready to go. So that's a matter of
Dude,
time.
nice.
Yeah. Oh, earlier today we got a question like, how do you choose your guests? And we've had like Rob on 3 or 4 times and stuff. And the reason we should probably do this a little better. The reason we usually have guests is last minute when either Matt or I, mostly me, say, dude, I can't be there. Like, I'm sorry I can't show up. Can you guys make a guest? So and Rob's always the one who's like there and ready to go.
Yeah.
But I think we're probably going to start maybe second birthday resolution. Maybe start planning our guests a little better.
Yeah, well, I think we had talked about... Yeah, we had talked about having the Carnies on soon to talk about pulp adventures because Tim specifically is all about pulp adventures. So we were definitely gonna do that at some point very, very soon.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually didn't know what pulp was until you guys defined it for me.
Well, it's a hard thing to define. It's a nebulous kind of thing. It's like I don't know. It's like I don't know how to define pulp, but I know it when I see it.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say that. Like, I don't know how to tell you what it is, but now that you taught me what it is, I can see it everywhere, and I can see what it's not.
Exactly, yeah.
So.
But yeah, we definitely want to have more guests on. We always enjoy getting a new perspective on the podcast, and it's always fun.
Yeah.
And we just had DBJ on a few weeks ago, and that was absolutely one of my favorite episodes we've ever recorded. So we'll definitely be doing some more guests soon. I know Mike Lasham of Mike the Piper, Marquis Stereotypical... Lasham, sorry, I know it's Lasham, but I always say Lasham because that's how I thought it was. Marquis, Stereotypical Strider, and Jake, Mini Terrain Domain, have all put their hats in to be guests on the show. So I think we'll definitely reach out to some of those folks and have them on. To talk about
and unfortunately, time zones can be an issue too because there's a lot of cool people in the UK. I'd love to get Runeslinger on, but he's in Korea, so that's a really hard time schedule to line up. So. That can be a factor too.
Yeah.
We're kind of limited there.
For sure. Well, before we go, I don't know. What do you guys want to do to close this out?
Idea they can steal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Some of that's something that said holidays, I think.
Oh, seasons. I see seasons.
Oh, okay. No, there was another one that said holidays.
But... It's from the same person that said seasons.
Oh, okay.
Jacob, what would you rather do, holidays or seasons? Oh, it's going to be like 20 seconds before he sees it.
Let's do seasons, man. That sounds cool. Let's come up with a season.
Okay, cool.
That's totally... I've never even thought about doing that. That's a cool idea.
Well, all right, cool. Let me...
Get that D12 out.
I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something special here.
What are you going to do?
Special for the people. Damn it, I don't have a dice roller. Hit me up with a dice roller, Matt.
What? Oh, you want me to roll it?
Open your dice roller so people know that it's true, and I don't fudge these rolls.
Hang on, I don't have a dice roller. I've got my fate. I got my fate roller. Let's see.
Yeah, do the fate roller.
Okay, got your fate roller.
Yeah, you can roll a regular D6 with a fate roller, right?
No.
Here, I got a fate roller too. I'm opening it now.
No, you can't.
No.
Dude, can I just roll a D12, bro?
Nope. The sacrifices we make.
No.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know how to roll dice.
Hang on, I got double D6s here.
Dude, this fate dice roller seems to have every single feature save for rolling dice. You can change the color of your mythological dice that aren't there.
So here's my double D6. So it's a D12 that has all the D6 stuff on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll that. So I'll be 1 to 2. Alex will be 3 to 4. Barker will be 5 to 6.
Cool.
Right.
That's a 4, so that's Alex. You start us off.
All right. So I'm going to say that this season is based on the fact that during the height of the longest days of the year and the hottest times of the year, there's this large moon that passes across the continent, and it's large enough and close enough that it obscures the sun for a month, and it changes the season because this large body now has basically put this place in perpetual shadow for that period of time. So not only is there kind of a different season beneath the shadow of this moon, but also like near the edges, because then you get kind of half light, and so it forms this kind of arc that goes across the continent and creates this unique season.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's cool. All right,
So-
1 through 3 is me, 4 through 6 is Barker. That's 6. That's Barker.
Cool. I'm going to say that this moon is timed. Its rotation around the plane is timed very slowly, but its gravitational pull is immense. And so the season is defined as it eclipses the sun, and the gravitational pulls of the moon and the sun combined, the tides come flooding up, and everything in this entire area is flooded and turned into ocean.
Dude,
Nice.
that's awesome. Okay, hang on. 1 through 6 is me. That's a 2, so that's me. I'm going to say that this season is called The Dark Wet, because it is both dark and wet. And there are certain creatures that live in kind of the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean. Kind of these very alien, almost aberrant-looking creatures. And when these floods occur due to the gravitational pull of this moon, and as the shadows kind of fall across the earth, these creatures come out of the ocean and prey on the humans that live in this world. And so it's known that for a month every year, you basically like hole up, like board the windows, board the doors. Everyone has like weapons and fortifications in place just to survive this month that happens every year.
Yeah, actually, it'd be cool is if you were making an adventure based around this. The party comes to this new area they've never been to before, and they've never been under the shadow of the moon, so to speak, and they all the buildings are built strangely. They all have these like solid bases, and they all have steps that lead up to them, so they're all like way off the ground. There's nothing on ground level, and then maybe the dark wet hits. Just after they arrive, so all of a sudden people are like going into their places, locking them up, and they're kind of left out wondering what's going on.
Yeah, what's the big deal? Where's the party going? And then everything starts flooding, and they're like, my god.
Yeah,
that's cool,
I
man.
would probably call it the night sweat or the rise or something.
The night sweats. I get those sometimes too.
I like the rise. That's actually
the rise is pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. I feel like they would colloquially, like the common folk would call it the dark wet because they just don't know any better, and that's like the only thing they could think of to call it.
Or if you're not running an online game and you want to bring some cool music into it, you call it Bad Moon, and
Ooh,
just play some
yeah.
Credence,
There you go. that song is apt for that situation.
Yeah,
exactly.
You cut out, Alex. For me, what did you?
Bad
what
Moon
song was it?
by Creedence Clearwater
yeah.
Revival. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So call it Bad Moon, and then you play the song while you're running.
You could have the lyrics of the song be some NPC dialogue. They're like, "I see a bad moon rising.
There's trouble on the way.
Don't go out tonight."
They're about to take your life.
There, the session wrote itself, man.
Done and done.
Hey, there you go. There's our next episode. How to create an adventure based on song lyrics.
Hey, I've done it before.
Song. That's true.
Done it before.
Okay.
Cool. Well, so Matt can go eat food and have
Yep.
dinner with his wife, and so Alex can go bury the body, and so I can go watch The New Girl because I'm a man and I do what I please as long as my wife tells me that it's okay. But thank you everybody for tuning into this live feed of Roll Up and Die. This is going to be episode 39 unless we number it differently, but this is awesome. Thank you everybody who have been around since the first episode with the technical difficulties and have been through all the missed days and all the delayed postings and all of the audio issues and everything. Thank you so much. This has just been fun. This is like hanging out. I'm basically just three guys hanging out with friends and talking about role-playing games. And so I don't have a glass bottle around me, but I do have this mug. It's been a long time since that has happened. Yeah. You want to do it, Matt?
I'll do it. Are we ready? Wait, we got to do our sign-offs.
Oh no! Wait,
first.
oh yeah! Thank you very much for tuning in to Roll Up and Die, your definitive RPG podcast. My name is Barker.
And my name is Matt from Fistful of Dice.
And my name is Alex, a.k.a. Captain Gothnog.
Godspeed. Blah. Whoa! Oh my gosh! It sounded like you threw a human being into the microphone.
So loud.
It sounded like you have Mike Portnoy in the background doing some double bass action. That's what that sounded like.
That's exactly what it was. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for watching, guys.